Do I press play here?
And we're live. See this way. There you go. Hello, everybody. This is Marcelo Mores podcast. Welcome back. Just started last. Yeah, we're good. We just started last week with my very first episode when I had my guest, music therapist Kendall Jones. And in today's episode, I have a really old friend here.
Really old.
Really old. Wait. That means we've known each other for a bit. Since the very first time my very first trip to Canada.
I should tell that story.
Yeah, well, back in 2008, in my first week in Canada, I met this great man right here. Welcome, Glenn Fraser.
Thank you, Marcel.
IT nerd, as I said, I'm mostly drummer, loving father and husband. Thank you so much, man, for accepting to do this, be part of my new crazy journey, a podcast.
I'm happy to be here, brother.
All right, so you said you wanted to start with a story that I wanted to take out of your hands.
Sure.
How do we meet?
How do we meet? All right. Well, my wife and I were on our honeymoon, and we were taking a motorcycle trip around Cabot Trail in October of 2008. And we had a cabin up there, and we decided to stop in at Celtic Colors Festival. And on the program guide for Celtic Colors, it said there was going to be a Cuban bagpiper. Now, you have to understand that I'm a guy that was going to Cuba to study congas. So when I saw in the Celtic Colors, there was a Cuban bagpiper in Cape Breton, I was like, man, that's trippy. So so I saw your show, and I tried not to heckle or cause too many problems. And then I went up and talked to Marcel afterwards, and I said, "Hola, hermano, we're like a mirror image of each other." Marcel is coming up here playing pipes, and I'm going down to Cuba to play congas. I thought it was a really cool mirror life kind of moment.
Absolutely, man. No, yeah, that's you always remind me that story definitely yeah, something to remember. So yeah, tell us a little bit. Well, everybody, I know your story, yeah. Some of it. Tell us a bit about your music journey.
Okay, so I was an IT guy. I'd been in IT for a dozen years or something, and I was making great money in Nova Scotia. But I was kind of dying a little bit every day at the screen. Too many hours at the screen. I was working for a large bureaucratic organization. I had to wear a shirt and a tie. And every day I'd drive my bicycle home, and at the beginning I'd pop a wheelie every day. I'd be so happy to gone. And then after a number of years, I'd only pop a wheelie on Fridays. And then after a decade, I didn't pop wheelies anymore. And so I realized I needed something to change my life a little bit. So I took up all kinds of hobbies. I went to the first annual Chicago Fringe Festival. I was in a play that went down to the first annual Chicago Fringe Festival. I was doing a lot of pottery, a lot of ceramics, and I also started some African drumming. And I fell in love with African drumming, and I couldn't stop. And so me and a couple of friends that were in lessons together, we would busk on the commons and just drum here and there. And eventually somebody said to us, "Hey, we're having a political rally down at the Grand Parade Square. Can you guys come make some noise? We need some noise for this rally." It wasn't drumming or music, it was noise, which I didn't care, but they were like, "We'll give you $200. I was like, "What?
Okay.
People will pay you to drum?" And so a little light went on. This would have been, I don't know, around 2000 or something. And then I got really serious about drumming and started studying, and there's some fantastic African drummers in Montreal in particular. Like most of West Africa is French. Mm-hmm. So when West Africans come to Canada, they typically want to come to a French-speaking province. So there's some amazing West African musicians in Montreal and Quebec City. So I take trips up there and I'd learn, and there's all kinds of resources on the internet. And I just started getting serious about drumming.
Sweet. No, that's amazing. Yeah, going back to what you say, I love our cross-cultural story, because yeah, many years ago I was like would have been probably close to the same time in the early 2000s. I was at university in Havana, and I discovered the bagpipes. There were bagpipes in Cuba, and I learned a little bit of because of my part of my heritage is Spanish and a little bit of Irish, thanks to my dad always talking to me about the Celts and our heritage. It's kind of like he loves history and genealogy and all of that. So anyway, I learned there were bagpipes in Havana, which is the typical city of warm people and the warm sun music and salsa and all the magic different styles. By the way, as you're gonna probably tell us a little bit later, the heavy, amazing African drumming input, and in general like a African culture input in Cuba. So I started piping, and the years went by, and we had the opportunity, 5 Cuban pipers to come to Canada and perform at Celtic Colors, the greatest international Celtic festival in North America. We're playing both Galician and Asturian bagpipes, both from northern Spain. These northern Spain regions that are very Celtic, and so it was a blessing to come up here and see the presence of this culture here, and we're calling the Celtic Celtic cousins, and that's how we met. But as far as I'm concerned, and we'll get into that later, your love for the West African music didn't stop there, right?
Absolutely not. When it started off with some African drumming lessons and then studying West African drumming, but I fell in love with Cuban drumming. Cuban drumming is intricate. It has lots of African influences tied into it, but it's its own unique thing, and it's demanding and it's beautiful. And there are lots of different drums, from bata to bongos to congas. So I also did some samba drumming. There's a group in Halifax called Samba Nova. So samba batucada. Did a little bit of Arabic drumming. I mean, just whatever I could put my hands on, any kind of drum, I went after it. And that eventually led me back to you, Marcel. And in particular, Marcel and I learned that our wives actually had gone to high school together. So there were all these different connections. So we ended up jamming together. And eventually Marcel says, "Hey, Glenn, do you want to be part of my project? I'm going to start something up." And I said, "Yeah, let's do it." And so we made some Latin music for a time, which was cool.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Sorry, I was just double checking. As this is the early stages of the podcast, I want to make sure that the audio is coming through the platforms all right. So if you're out there watching on YouTube or Facebook that I have up right now, just give me a thumbs up. If not, we have to repeat the whole story again. It's coming to Canada has been a great journey for sure. Lots of different for me, lots of different changes, cultural changes, and I was able to find that connection by missing home, find that connection back to Cuba with the culture. So I started digging into my roots, my Cuban roots, Latin music, Cuban music, and so on. And I was part of a couple of projects with some local musicians, and then I went on my own and formed this new project in 2016, where Glenn, we had jammed before. He jumped on board, and we did a few festivals around. So the project's called Plan Che. Post-pandemic, we're very quiet right now, but yeah, we've had a few shows, and it was amazing to find like a local Nova Scotian that has mastered the Cuban styles of drumming in the bongos and the congas, and I find that very positive, and also to add to the diversity of our world today, where people travel and know each other and learn about other cultures, and not only learn but embrace and are soaked into it and are part of it. So yeah, me playing bagpipes and Glenn playing congas and bongos. You play other the djembe, and you play other instruments as well.
all different kinds of drums. Like I played a little bit of Arabic drum. It's usually called doumbek or drum bucky, depending what part of the Middle East you're from. But any kind of hand drum I can put my hands on, I try at some point. And yeah, it's a rich, and one of the coolest things for me about music is that it's a bridge. It's a bridge. I mean, it was a bridge between Marcel and I initially, just to get to know each other. It was, I mean, I remember this moment when I motorcycled out to the Winnipeg Folk Festival, and there was a drum circle out at the Winnipeg Folk Festival, and I recognized the rhythm they were doing. I didn't know a single person in the drum circle, and it was a rhythm called Igbo from Nigeria, and no one was playing the bell. So I picked up the bell and I started playing the Igbo bell, and the people that were running the drum circle said, "Yeah." And I didn't know a name. I didn't know if they were English or French or where they were from, but I was playing the Igbo rhythm with them, and they recognized it, and we were together. And I'd never uttered a word to a single person in that drum circle. It was cool.
Sweet. Yeah, no, definitely the magic. Well, there's a lot of magic in African drumming that relates to all the different cultures in Africa and their different languages and tribes. One particular thing that we all love and enjoy a lot is the offbeat feel of it, right? It's present in the West African music, certainly, and a lot in Cuban music,
Absolutely.
in jazz music, Central American folk music, Colombia, Venezuela, and to my personal taste, I really enjoy also the Brazilian evolution of the African drumming into all the different Brazilian popular rhythms, the bossa novas, the samba, the forró. It's absolutely amazing. Now, a question for you, Glenn, because this has to do a little bit of the way our minds are framed and attached somewhat to our culture, right? And in Nova Scotia, well, it's a lot different today here in the city of Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada. But back in, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago, there was probably not as much as diversity musically as we have today. Please correct me if I'm wrong, because
Absolutely right.
Because I wasn't here. I've only been here for a decade. And so in that construct of you growing up, probably you were mostly exposed to Mauritanian music, maybe some influences here and there, where the beat is on time all the time.
On
right?
and obvious.
Yeah. So how was your experience and interaction finding that this whole new universe of offbeat music, which is completely different? And I find that sometimes for people that have grown in cultures like this one, it could be a little challenging to find, to adapt from the 1, 2, 3, 4 to 2, 3, and 4, right? All the offbeats.
Yeah, all the polyrhythms.
Yeah.
So I think part of it for me is when I grew up in just outside Halifax in a really typical white suburb called Lower Sackville, nothing special. At 11 years old, my family picked up and we moved to South America. So we were in a little country called Guyana, where all the music was calypso, soca, early reggae,
Sweet.
that kind of stuff. And so being exposed to that at 11, 12, 13, all my friends were kids of color. I ate curry. Like my world was turned upside down in a gorgeous way. And part of that turning upside down was listening to music that I had never heard before. And I loved it. And I think at that age, a bunch of seeds were planted in me that kind of had an effect on my path in music.
For how long? How long did you live?
2 years.
2 years. Okay.
And I went to public school, and I was plugged right into like normal life in Guyana, which is really it's in South America, but it's really a Caribbean culture there, more like Trinidad culture.
Yeah, and they speak
speak English with yes. like a heavy Caribbean accent. Yeah, which I can still do when I'm drinking. Yeah.
All right, we'll leave that part for another time.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, that's the fact that you had the exposure. It was fantastic. Our common friend, which I hope to bring in the program sometime. Chris Churchill, he had a similar idea, but he lived in Puerto Rico for 5 years.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, he can nail the Spanish, and he's an amazing local bass player, and
a great guy,
great person too. And I have to comment, he's got the jazz feel, the Latin feel. He can do anything, and I think it's not impossible, but I definitely, to be immersed in the culture is a huge advantage for anyone that wants to interact with the music of a different culture. I think that would be like a big a huge advantage.
Absolutely.
Right. I did wanted to ask you, and as I said earlier, because you eventually developed a little bit of your own circle of friends and people to attract and do like drum circles.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your experience?
Well, one of the coolest feelings that I've had as a musician is bringing a group of people together that think they can't drum, and teaching them a traditional rhythm and letting them put all these different parts together to create a rhythm. I can't do it on my own. There might be 5 different parts in a traditional African rhythm. And when these people who have never even maybe touched a drum are all of a sudden in a polyrhythm and it's locked, it's ecstatic for some of these people. You know, especially people that have never felt that drum beat, never experienced like physically. The thing about drumming that's a little bit different than other instruments is it's a physical thing. It's almost like a dance of the upper body. You know what I mean? So it's less about the intellect where Westerners spend all their time, and it's more about a physical connection to music, which as Westerners we're desperate for. Desperate for.
That's good. No, yeah, definitely, and I think also it had to do. And many musicians and people talk about this. It's got to do with the feeling, feeling connected. Because no matter the language you speak, we can still connect through music.
Absolutely.
It's I think music is a universal language as well as food, probably.
Mm-hmm.
But I just find that fascinating, and just to bring a little bit of what I talked about in the previous podcast about music therapy. I do know from a little bit of readings that I've been doing, and also from personal communications with you, that it has a big impact in people like that are dealing with different sort of disease or like mental illness, and I think that drumming is being proven to be like a relief or a way of expressing themselves, that there's people that are having like some sort of like a different issues, different natures. They could communicate, express themselves other than verbally speaking. I mean, that could very well be their impediment, or because of whatever situation they're facing. And I believe you mentioned that you in the past you've been exposed in a clinical setting where you've conducted like a drum circle or some sort of interaction. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, drumming as therapy is powerful. There have been all kinds of studies about the mental and emotional benefits of drumming. The therapeutic settings I've been in have been largely to do with mental wellness, like addiction services, some mental health clinics based out of the Nova Scotia Hospital, even in employment situations where they're trying to do team building. They've had drum circles in those kind of settings. And what's really interesting for me is I can go into a setting where there's a group of people that I've never met, and we can start drumming together, and I can start to see who those people are. They may not even have decided to let me see who they are, but I see who they are because of how they speak on the drum.
Interesting.
So I remember I was I was doing this drum circle for a team building for an employer in Dartmouth, and I had everybody on their little parts, and then one older guy, started playing whatever he wanted, right over the rib, played whatever he wanted. I'd given him a part to play, and he kind of ignored it and did what he wanted. And it sort of became clear to me shortly into that drum circle that this was the guy that made the decisions and did what he wanted. He was probably the boss. And sure enough, he turned out to be the boss, and no one told him what to do. Even the drum circle facilitator could only tell him what to do a little bit, and then he did what he wanted.
Whoa.
But these are the kinds of things that you see. You see people that are other people terrified to touch the drum because they don't want to be too loud. So they're a little bit unsure about whether they want their voice heard. And then the other people that are going to play really, really loud, even if they don't know what they're doing. You see all these different things come out. And most of the settings where I would see these personality traits come out or tendencies, I would not be in a position to comment about them. So even if I had insights, in a lot of these therapeutic sessions, it was not a set situation where I was encouraged to give feedback to participants. It was more about the therapy of the drumming itself. Mm-hmm. But the things you saw were incredible.
You could observe a little bit.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like see their personalities and what was going on dynamically.
I'm sure the interpretation of that when you're at a clinical setting where people may suffer some sort of like mental illness or addiction, it would be more complex to figure out, because of the complexity of the of their own issues, and that would be more the job of the psychotherapists that is with them. But you can certainly observe and see some differences in behavior. And just to bring it back to a normal setting, that I really like the idea of the boss doing whatever he wanted.
Oh my gosh, man! I was a little bit irritated by this dude, but it became clear it didn't matter.
And he couldn't fire you, right?
No, well, he probably could not have me back, but it was their drum circle, but it was just interesting to watch.
Right now.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we hope that as the good weather is starting to come back to Nova Scotia, and spring just kissed us like 2 days ago, right? We've been enjoying the last couple of
a warm kiss, I would say.
Yeah, a couple of beautiful days we've had, and hopefully now with the COVID situation being more under control, and with the vaccinations, we hope to be able to enjoy these life experiences again. And definitely something useful, I believe, with that could be helpful for the mind and the mental health of everybody that has been in so much stress through this pandemic situation, that potentially would be recommend. I mean, I would strongly recommend to maybe grab an instrument and do some banging. Just it releases some energy and potentially stress. So yeah, hopefully that will be the case very soon. Now I want to ask you about the drumming scene here in Halifax, where we are, and some of the also hand drummers that you have that you may have met, and tell us a little bit about that. I mean, it's okay if you forget someone. I'm sure there's a few, but yeah, if you wanna mention like of other drummers, hand drummers that and maybe some anecdotal story, fun story with one of them.
Absolutely. So I think to go back to a comment you made about lack of diversity in Nova Scotia musically, maybe 40 years ago, I think the first Latin or African drumming teachers were in Nova Scotia in the mid-90s. One person, Matthew Kaiser, came up with the Shambhala movement from the States. He had studied in New York with some Cuban masters there. And another guy named Kirk Laurie, who had also come up from the States. He had studied in Haiti and I think maybe Cuba as well. And before that, I don't think there were any people that had really studied and taught in Nova Scotia that I'd ever heard. So they sort of kicked it all off in the 90s. And from that point forward, it's just kind of spread. And there are various people that like Dr. Henry Bishop is a really well-known African Nova Scotian drummer who is I kind of see him as the backbone of the local African drumming scene here. And there's also a number of drummers that I've drummed with over the years. We had a West African group called Fola, and we really studied tradition hard for about maybe 7 or 8 years, rehearsing weekly and performing. it's there's just a lot of different drummers at a lot of different stages, and it's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous tradition, and it's Halifax is richer because of it.
Yeah, like I have met also here some hand drummers that have the djembe players that have come from West Africa, from Nigeria. We know our friend Ifo, and I recently, like last was it last summer I believe, there was some sort of like a in the Indianapolis Valley, they had like an event where they did a little bit of storytelling and drumming, and yes, and there were I forgive me, I forgot the names now.
Bruno.
Yeah, and there were like newcomers from other, I believe from, I'm not sure if it's from Congo. I can't remember. There was other newcomers that were part of that, and it was beautiful because they were doing the drumming and doing storytelling, part in their local language, and some translated into English. And I feel like that was a great, a beautiful experience. And I believe some of them they do organize their own like drum circles or teaching drums, which I think it adds to the beauty and the diversity of the West African drumming and African drumming in general that we enjoy today in Halifax. I personally I have enjoyed your and several times your art of hand drumming. I've also played with the local Venezuelan Felipe Valera, great young man, and last year was with 2 years ago, was prior to the pandemic. He's not like a hand drummer specifically, but Alejandro Enriquez. He's a drummer, but he plays hand drums, a Cuban musician, as
He's a monster.
Yeah,
he's a monster.
Yeah, he's very well accomplished jazz musician as well, and he toured with with the big guys in Cuba, the Buena Vista Social Club. Afterwards,
and he teaches at Cornell, I think, currently. Primarily sticks, but an incredible Latin player.
Awesome, yeah. A little bit of our friend Chava, right?
Yeah.
Chava Cañas, mostly, I mean, primarily like a drummer, jazz musician, but yeah, he puts his hands on the congas and cajon, and so it's been quite a blessing for me to be able to interact with some of the local drummers, so I'm pretty pumped, man. Thank you. Anything else that you would like to add for us? Anything coming up? What would you like to say?
Well, I hope that the pandemic ends soon and we can start making music together. I mean, we played that Halifax Celtic Fest there. It was the first gig for me, like professional gig in a year.
Yeah.
So I just hope that things open up and we can start making music again,
Yeah, no, I was very happy to bring you on. I mean, it kind of consolidates our first connection.
Yeah.
Because with this little project that hopefully we can kick off in the summer if things get better, where I can mix a little bit of the Latin more with the Celtic music. So yeah, more for that coming soon.
What's the name of that group, Marcel?
It's called Ache Druida. So Druida from the Druids, the Irish Druids, and Ache is also the name of the Plan Ache. It's a Nigerian word that in their Yoruba culture and the Yoruba language, it's the philosophy that is the power required to make the change happen. I find that a very strong connection with Cuba, right? Because in the Yoruba culture that is very present in Cuba, they used to say Ache for you, Ache pa ti. It means like a culture of blessing, good things for you. So I found that to be a very symbolic, very meaningful name. So yeah, playing around with that Ache Druida, because we live in a multicultural world today. So we should strive to celebrate that.
A quick tie into Ache, the word Ache. One of the Nigerian rhythms that I learned has a song with it that has Ache as the central part of the chorus. So even before I met you and Plan Ache, I knew the word, and because of my African drumming, which was cool, Yoruban rhythm drumming.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
No, yeah, definitely. And well, it's just past month. There was like the African Heritage Month here. Well, all across North America, I believe. Um, so I know there was some online events happening. Hopefully we'll embrace all the cultures soon together. And yeah, looking forward to have more friends in another episode of the podcast. Anyway, thank you very much, my friend. Thank you, amigo.
Por nada, señor.
And yeah, we look forward to do some drumming and piping and music in the next couple of months.
Maybe even have a mojito.
Mojito, that's right. Famous Cuban drink.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for sticking with us. This is the second episode of Marcelo Mora's podcast. Please leave your comments, ask questions, and please subscribe below on our Facebook channel. And I look forward to see you next time. Gracias.
Adios.